When it comes to destiny, some stars shine brighter than others. The story of this South African music legend is one that makes you touch the stars. Immersing ourselves in the journey and the exceptional destiny of this singer is almost like a duty of remembrance. It's about remembering that the suffering of the past leaves its marks, but also opens up a path towards greater chances of justice and hope. And of this very hope, we often remember the names of the greatest people who fought against oppression. As if written in the stars, the story of this woman, known as Mama Africa, still resonates like a pure and powerful sound of the denunciation of the suffering that apartheid has so deeply rooted in the history of South Africa. In that story, we'll follow the footsteps of the greatest African musician of her generation, who, when her own country closed its door to her, was welcomed with an open heart by the rest of the world in Africa. Her name is Miriam Makeba. In 1948, the government of South Africa, led by the descendants of the Dutch, German and French, the Afrikaners, instituted the regime of apartheid. In Afrikaans, the language spoken mainly by white South Africans, the word apartheid means separation, and it was indeed a geographical, social, sanitary, economical and spiritual division that the government will use to put in place one of the most brutal regimes known to date. Apartheid was a violent system of racial segregation and a profound denial of the dignity of Black and Indian peoples of South Africa. They were excluded from the political life, crowded into townships, deprived of the most basic right, such as the right to vote, and controlled by law, each more humiliating than the last. Travel was restricted, and a pass was often required to move around the area reserved to white after the curfew enforced on Black people. Back then, the simple act of existing freely as a Black person became an act of rebellion, and it is in this oppressive climate that Zenzile Miriam Makeba is going to grow up. Born on March 4th of 1932 in the township of Prospect in Johannesburg, she was the youngest of 6 children. She was born in a family where music vibrated in everyone's DNA. Her father, who sadly passed away when she was only 6 years old, played piano, but it is her mother's voice in Xhosa that would leave its mark on Miriam Makeba.
Et j'ai chanté beaucoup de chansons que ma maman avait beaucoup aimées parce qu'elle chantait très bien, ma mère. Et les chansons traditionnelles comme Zirwara ukutini kiruti banabaka Zirwara ukutini kiruti banabaka Mampa burekeka Maburekeka Mampa burekeka Maburekeka Wana walila wa walila Wana walila wa walila Mampa burekeka Maburekeka Mampa burekeka Maburekeka.
Far beyond the music, it was the precarious reality that marked the life of the young child that she was. Her mother, a domestic worker for white families, struggled to provide for her family. Poverty was extreme. The school Miriam Makeba attended was overcrowded with more than 200 children for one teacher. Tired, her mother could no longer cope. Miriam Makeba had to leave school in year 5 to help out at home. Music soon became her refuge. She sang at the Kilnerton Training Institute in Pretoria, a Methodist primary school attended by Black children, where she stayed for 8 years. Her brother, a great jazz enthusiast who collected records of some of the greatest African American musicians, told her the greatest jazz standards. She sang at church, at school, and even in the street to earn money to support her mother and community. She was soon singing in various Creole, in Xhosa, Soto, Zulu, but also in English, even before she could speak that language. But even if music eased Miriam Makeba's heart, the teenager that she was started working as a maid for a white family in the suburb of Johannesburg. She soon became to grips with the tough reality of being a black woman in South Africa at this time. After just 3 months, the family stopped paying her, accusing her of stealing. Miriam Makeba left to move with her grandmother. Still living in poverty, her mother decided to become a Sangome, a traditional healer, and to be able to practice without fear, she left South Africa to her native Swaziland. Miriam Makeba had to provide for her family, all the more so because at only 17 and after her first marriage in 1950, she gave birth to her only child, her daughter, Bongi. In the 50s, South Africa was a place where racial discrimination led to suffering, discrimination, and the uprising of injustice. People died, cried, and they held their breath from one more restrictive law to the other. They endured the most politicized aspect of the country, but out of this suffering, a form of resilience was born, and it was under the narrative of music soothes suffering that an artistic perfume was diffused in the street of Johannesburg. At this time, jazz traveled, people danced, people laughed, and Miriam Makeba started in the world of music. She began her career with the Cuban Brothers before joining the Manhattan Brothers, and in 1953 she recorded her very first hit, Nakuchimulanga. It was a soft, powerful melody. With that song, she also introduced internationally to the audiences the click sound in the Xhosa language that amazed and intrigued so many people. This sound will also become a bridge between cultures and her signature.
Ndakucinga ngawe lakutshoni langa kutena ngathi andiva kahle nje wabafowethu yintoni engathi niyanxila nje maqabantini bathi wala mina sodli wamatha sanqa mama
years after releasing the song Lakuchimulanga, it is while playing with the Manhattan Brothers that Miriam Makeba will meet the man who will become the first black president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, when he was at the time still a young lawyer. When he saw her, he was impressed by this first encounter, and he said, "This woman will go far." Little did he know that many years later, Miriam Makeba would sing for his liberation. Indeed, the shadow of apartheid still loomed large. One day, while on tour, Miriam Makeba's band had a car accident, and one of the artists was badly injured and needed emergency surgery. With his life in danger due to an internal bleeding, the band rushed into the nearest hospital, which was a hospital for white people. Once outside the hospital's gate, they laid him down and asked for medical attention. They were refused this vital request. From there, they begged for access to an ambulance, which was also refused to them. They did everything they could to get him to a hospital where the color of his skin did not affect his chances of survival. But when they arrived, it was too late. Victor Nkinze died on the operating table. But despite of the tumult of apartheid, Miriam Makeba's unique voice attracted attention. In 1957, after her first successes, Miriam Makeba was featured on the cover of the Drum magazine, and from that moment onwards, things started to accelerate for her. 1959 marked a new stage for Miriam Makeba, who left South Africa to star in a movie about the life in the townships. Produced by the independent director Lionel Ragosi, the movie is a committed one. It mixes fact and fiction because it denounced the injustice and racial discrimination, and for that reason, the movie had to be filmed in secret. In that movie, Miriam Makeba sings two songs. It will soon attract lots of attention, particularly for the part where Miriam Makeba appears. It was screened in Venice, Italy, and won an award. Miriam Makeba obtained a visa to attend the film screening. Her performance with the dialogues in Zulu were considered crucial for the success of that movie about black culture and black history. When screened in Italy for the movie festival, Come Back Africa moved not only the audience, but also the man who will change everything for Miriam Makeba's story, Harry Belafonte, an actor, singer, African-American activist, and performer of the famous song Day-O. He will play a central role in Martin Luther King's legendary March for Civil Rights. Moved, he will contact her, meet her in London, and become her mentor. From this encounter, he invited her to join him in New York, which will prove to be a turning point. Once she arrived in America with the support of Harry Belafonte, She practiced with his musician for 2 days. On the third day, she sung on the Steve Allen Show, and Harry Belafonte invited the press to the event. She showed up on stage to sing 4 songs that she managed to rehearsal in such a short space of time. The crowd was moved, surprised, and amazed by the discovery of Miriam Makeba, a part of South Africa's cultural heritage.
Igqirha lendlela ke nguqongqothane igqirha lendlela kuthiwa nguqongqothane igqirha lendlela yamama nguqongqothane igqirha lendlela kuthiwa nguqongqothane hayiba aseleqabele qhathapho yamama nguqongqothane.
Soon after, it was at the Village Vanguard that she impressed the whole New York. This success marked the beginning of her international career. In a world where she was not used to be mixing with white people, it was Harry Belafonte who reassured her, encouraged her, and gave her the necessary code to feel safe. It was Harry who helped her recording the song Pata Pata in 1959, as well as the version in Xhosa of the Click song, and it was through that song that they've introduced the Click sound to the world. Miriam Makeba's success has made her a source of inspiration in America, from Ella Fitzgerald, who she admired as a child, to Miles Davis and Duke Ellington. His voice and these languages from Africa fascinated people. In 1965, she became the first African singer to win a Grammy Award for her collaborative album with Harry Belafonte, An Evening with Belafonte and Makeba. This album includes the legendary song Malaika, sung in Swahili, as well as other songs in Zulu, Sotho, and of course in Xhosa.
Nakupenda malaika, ingekuwa maliwe, ingekuwa dada, nashindwa na mali sina we, ingekuwa malaika, nashindwa na mali sina we, ingekuwa malaika.
But despite of her success and international fame, Miriam Makeba's heart was still bleeding inside. In 1960, a year after being banished from her homeland, a tragic incident heated the country. She lost her mother shortly after the Sharpeville massacre. This episode of police repression took place on the 21st of March 1960, unprecedentedly violent. It resulted in 180 injuries and the death of 69 black pacifist demonstrators, including 2 members of the family of Miriam Makeba. This event left its mark on the black people in South Africa. Although it was originally a peaceful demonstration with women, men and children against the established government, the violence used by the government shocked the public. The mother of Miriam Makeba asked every single day when her daughter was away, "When is my daughter coming back?" Grieving, Miriam Makeba begged the South African government to let her say a final goodbye to her mother while attending the funeral in her country of origin. The refusal she received was to remain an open wound, and she said, "Not to have been able to bury my mother in my own country is the greatest suffering of my entire life." Separated from her own daughter, Bongi, who remained in South Africa, Miriam Makeba experienced this physical separation as a real heartbreak. This suffering gave rise to an increasingly political message in her music. Far from her native South Africa, she set herself the mission of denouncing the suffering of black people in South Africa and beyond. She said, "Wouldn't you resist if you were denied any right in your own country because the color of your skin was different from that of those who are in power, and if you were punished for simply asking for equality?" She made that speech in 1963 at the United Nations with the support of Harry Belafonte.
I ask you and all the leaders of the world, would you act differently? Would you keep silent and do nothing if you were in our place? Would you not resist if you were allowed no rights in your own country because the color of your skin is different to that of the rulers? And if you were punished for even asking for equality? I appeal to you, and through you to all the countries of the world, to do everything you can to stop the coming tragedy. I appeal to you to save the lives of our leaders, to empty the prisons of all those who should never have been there.
In New York in the 60s, she surrounded herself with other African in exile in the US, such as Miriam Makeba, whom she later married. It was also an opportunity for her to surround herself with some of the greatest names of the entertainment industry, including Marlon Brando, Sidney Poitier, Louis Armstrong, Ray Charles, and Nina Simone, with whom she performed at the Carnegie Hall. During her time in the US, she also witnessed the suffering of African Americans, and she said, "There wasn't much difference between America compared to South Africa. It was a country that had abolished slavery, but it was kind of an apartheid in its own way." She then became involved in the civil rights movement in the US, a cause that she associated with the fight against apartheid in a spirit of convergence of struggles. But stateless, when her South Africa closed its door to her, she was welcomed by the rest of Africa, and it was in indelible in the Republic of Guinea from 1969 to 1985 that she settled in, after being welcomed with open arms by the president Ahmed Sékou Touré and the entire Guinea nation. Over there, she was not just a woman in exile, she was welcomed with love by the Guinean people. She ate, laughed, and danced with the people. Living in Guinea brought her back memories of her mother's homeland, Switzerland.
Conakry, un matin de février. Cette femme, cette africaine qui quitte le marché, toute la population la connaît. Dans la capitale guinéenne, comme dans tout le pays, comme dans l'Afrique entière, on sait qui est Miriam Makeba, Mama Makeba, Mama Africa.
She was living in humility among the most modest people. Miriam Makeba was above all a woman of the people. Far from the spotlight, she built a life while traveling in many African countries. Beyond the borders of Guinea, many other African countries saw Miriam Makeba as a model of resistance and one of Africa's greatest pride. Rejected in South Africa, she was granted the nationality of 9 countries, including Cuba, Guinea, Algeria, Belgium, and Ghana. She was also the honorary citizen of 10 countries. She received gifts from head states Mobutu, Fidel Castro, Patrice Lumumba's family.
Ambassadeur de Guinée à Maputo, c'est fait en Afrique du Sud. Ça, c'est Fidel Castro qui me l'a offert, aussi un passeport cubain. Ce qui fait que je suis même sortie de notre continent pour aller à l'autre côté. J'ai beaucoup de passeports et parmi ces passeports, j'ai mon passeport cubain.
Vous avez combien? 8 passeports africains?
8, 9e, c'est le cubain.
Et les sièges sur lesquels nous sommes assis, c'est aussi un cadeau?
C'est le Bénin. Ça a été offert par le président Kérékou.
On va peut-être se lever pour les voir.
C'est un instrument qu'on m'a donné au Zaïre, dans la région de Patrice Lumumba. Et je suis allée dans sa famille pour saluer la famille. Et ils m'ont offert ça à son nom. Et parce qu'ils ont dit qu'ils ont toujours entendu que mon petit-fils est nommé après Patrice Lumumba. Et ils m'ont donné ça.
C'est un instrument qui appartenait à la famille de Patrice.
Oui. Ça a été offert par le président Mobutu en 1972. Ça, c'est un cadeau de Madame Samara Machel avec celui-là et celui-là. La maman et l'enfant.
Qui est donc de quelle région de...
Maputo, de Mozambique. C'est la femme du président Machel. Ça, c'est le président et Madame Neto qui m'ont donné ça en 1975 quand j'ai visité l'Angola. Made for Maman Miriam Makeba.
Ce continent africain, c'est très récent.
C'est très récent.
Un voyage à New York au mois de décembre 80.
J'étais allée chanter à New York tout dernièrement. Et les enfants de Harlem, les tout petits, ont fait ça. Ils sont montés sur scène pour me présenter ça.
The Emperor of Ethiopia also invited her to sing at the inauguration of the Organization of African Unity, UA, on the 25th of May 1963, an event that brought together 32 founding African countries. She was the only artist to perform at the ceremony. And she said, "I don't sing politics, I sing the truth." In 1967, more than 10 years after its recording, she released the album Pata Pata in the United States, which became a worldwide success. The Pata Pata is a love parade dance in the suburb of Johannesburg, in Zulu and Xhosa. It could be translated by almost nothing. She admitted that she didn't like the song Pata Pata and would have liked to be remembered by a song that was more committed. citizen of the world, she sang in Zulu, Xhosa, Tswana, Swahili, Portuguese, French, and even in Arabic for the 1978 All Africa Games in Algeria. Four years later, she roamed public in Zaire with her performance for the Rumble in the Jungle Zaire 74 during the Ali vs Foreman's match. She wrote songs dedicated to the greatest contemporary African heroes from Patrice Lumumba to Ahmed Sékou Touré, and even dedicated a song to the African American leader Malcolm X.
Igqirha lendlela ke nguqongqothane, igqirha lendlela kuthiwa nguqongqothane, igqirha lendlela oya nguqongqothane, igqirha lendlela kuthiwa nguqongqothane. Sele qabela qathaba ke hayi nguqongqothane.
In 1985, another personal tragedy turned her life upside down. Her daughter, Bongi, tragically lost her life during a miscarriage. Miriam Makeba became the legal carer for her two grandchildren.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bongi, Miss Bongi Makeba. Ramotando Jai
It was against this backdrop that she left Guinea for Brussels. Despite of this situation, she continued to perform throughout the world.
You have been umhlaba wonke ngaze ngabatshela ngosizi ebesinalo silubonile nosizo lwabezizwe sithi enkosi enkosi siyabonga siyabonga lalebuha.
On the 11th of June 1988, she sang at the historic concert in Wembley Stadium in London to mark the 70th birthday of Nelson Mandela, who was still in prison at the time. This concert will go down in history as a moment of international unity for the release of Madiba. It brought together more than 600 million viewers around the world.
The children got a letter from the master. It said no more Xhosa, Sotho, no more Zulu. Refusing to comply, they sent an answer. That's when the policeman came to the rescue. Children were flying,
years in exile, Miriam Makeba sang for the release of Nelson Mandela. Across the world, she carries his message, his cause, and his struggle like an anthem. The song, Naku Mandela, co-recorded with Harry Belafonte, is one of the most powerful symbols of this. On stage, in her speeches, and her song, she never stopped repeating that Nelson Mandela's freedom represented the hope of an entire nation.
Bahleli bonke kwaNongqongqo nanku 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 Mandela nanku nanku etilongweni yini wema Africa zoten zoten.
1990 was a turning point in the history of South Africa. Nelson Mandela was finally released from prison. When Madiba was released, the emotion was immense.
There's Mr. Mandela, Mr. Nelson Mandela, a free man taking his first steps into a new South Africa.
He called Miriam Makeba himself and asked her to return home. Thanks to her French passport that she obtained on that same year, it was now possible. After 2 years, almost day to day, after the historical concert in Wembley, her life was about to change. On the 10th of June, 1990, after more than 30 years in exile, Mama Africa finally set foot on the South African mainland. Welcomed as a true national hero, she was overwhelmed by emotion to rediscover her homeland, her people, and her country. She confessed that her greatest dream was to be able to return and sing in front of her South African people, free. Her album, Homeland, released 10 years later, was a declaration of love to the South Africa that she had so often missed. She said, "I kept my culture, I kept the music of my roots. Thanks to this, I became the voice and the image of Africa and of my people without even being aware of it." Back home, she became involved in the political and health causes, such as the fight against children soldiers and AIDS. She played an active part in the transition to democracy and became a living symbol of a new South Africa. And on the 9th of November 2008, on an Italian stage, she sang for the last time in support of the writer Roberto Saviano, and at the end of her performance, she collapsed. Miriam Makeba died on stage, standing as she had lived, singing for justice until the end of her life. As a tribute to her music, her artistic genius, and her fight for greater equality, the Miriam Makeba International Prize was created to reward creative African artists. Today, her message still resonates. She is forever Mama Africa, and Nelson Mandela paid her a tribute while saying, "Her captivating melody gave voice to the pain of exile that she felt for 31 long years. At the same time, her music inspired a powerful sense of hope in all of us. Even after her return home, she continued to use her name to make history. She was South Africa's First Lady of Music and deserved the title of Mama Africa. She was the mother to our struggle and our young nation, and it was only right that she spent her final moment on stage enriching the hearts and the lives of others." And like one of those stars whose destiny shines brighter, the one still known today as Mama Africa continues to make music shine with her aura, and every time her music resonates, it's a reminder that every fight for equality has been built because stars with an extraordinary destiny changed the world.